I was going to say, it's a sweet irony that the whole idea of American white supremacy is that black and brown people are the threat to America and American way of life, but it's going to be white terrorism. White terrorism is now the biggest threat to America and American way of life in the system. And you see the system not being able to make that turn, right? They know, I mean, the FBI is saying white terrorism is the biggest threat, but like the system is still too afraid to address that, like they addressed Al-Qaeda, like they addressed ISIS, like they addressed the Black Panthers. Like you were saying about the Capitol Police, the black lawsuits. There was a former Capitol policeman. I don't know where I was listening to him. He's an old man in his 80s, and he was talking about he was Capitol Police. And he was talking about, oh, they should have done this. They should have had a perimeter there. They should have had, this is what, if I was there, this is what they would have done. And he said, he told a story about Louis Farrakhan came with 2 of his bodyguards to the Capitol, or to one of the buildings by the Capitol. And they had like 1,000 Capitol Police, and they had the whole grounds on lockdown. He goes, and that was for Louis Farrakhan and 2 of his bodyguards. And with the white mob, they didn't do anything. So that's just, there's barbarians at the gates. And we're fucking, people, the guards are opening the gates.
That still blows my mind. I've written a lot about white supremacy in law enforcement. It's a huge issue, right? But I never did I think I would see that. And now what we witnessed was essentially white supremacy turning on itself.
As it would, right? As hate does. As the Nazis did, that's what hate does.
Right. There are limits to white supremacy where it will eventually turn on itself. And I think, from my view, the attack on the Capitol, it symbolizes that's the limit of white supremacy. You had white supremacists going into the Capitol to go hang a white supremacist, Mike Pence. You know what I mean? So because he didn't do the one thing they thought he should do, which he had no power to do, and it's not, then it turned real quick to hang Mike Pence because Donald Trump called him a coward. And it's like, so there's going back to the free speech thing. So you can't, there's plausible deniability in what Trump said, like when he called him a coward, he's not telling him to go hang Mike Pence. That started on these far right message boards, that kind of mentality is where that starts. So I don't blame Donald Trump for those guys saying, we're going to hang Mike Pence, but it's dog whistle politics. And some people take dog whistles way too far.
They work on dogs, man. And there's a lot of dogs out there.
So, as far as, white supremacy eating itself, I think the Capitol, symbolizes that in such a way because they're going after leaders who, many of us consider a lot of them to have white supremacist beliefs, whether they're knowledgeable or not. It's like the implicit bias thing, so you have the old guard politicians in there that, still have visions of when they were a kid, but, their mentality doesn't represent what we're living through.
Yeah.
So that we have those disconnects and we don't have trust in those people. So when you see, a bunch of white supremacists going after a bunch of white supremacists, essentially, that's it. That's white supremacy eating itself. And it exposed a lot about this country.